Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. My name is Mike at Filmboy24, and today we're going to break it down again. Not break it down, but break that down. We're going to go over this beauty right here. That's right, it's time for another Break It Down video where we take a movie camera of some sort, or even a still camera, but it's been movie cameras. And for today's episode, it's going to be the Bell Howell T30XL Super 8 silent only movie camera. Before I get into that though, one or two very quick things. I wanted to mention I have started my video. It's a little review breakdown video of the 8mm Super 8 movie scanner. It's a kind of a Wolverine knockoff, but there's something you're going to want to know about it. That's coming within the next week or two. I also want to mention that I have been working relatively closely, as have quite a few others, with a Kodak quality control manager. For about a year now. I contacted them. I don't know if you remember the video I did on Ektachrome 100D 7294, but I did that video last year and I had a lot of jam issues. Not jam, breakdown, but jamming. The camera would stop and the film just wouldn't sort of progress. Well, ever since I contacted Kodak about that issue, I've sort of been in the loop about what's happening, and they involved me in some of the, what they call an Ektachrome improvement study, where they sent me and other filmmakers across US and Europe some Ektachrome 7294 100D cartridges, and they were numbered, and in fact, I've been given permission to show you. Here's what's going on. So I got 4 carts, and I shot 2 of them. The very first one did exactly the same thing that my original complaint did, and my camera just jammed, really wouldn't run it. It was intermittent, it was just a mess. I shot a second cart, and it actually seemed a little bit better. It still jammed up on me a little bit, but it let me go a little farther, and it actually let me eventually make my way through the cartridge. I did process those 2, but I used really exhausted chemicals, and I didn't extend the times long enough, and I essentially just kind of ruined them. The film was ruined anyway, so it wasn't that big of a deal to me. This was the 3rd cart that they sent me, and the reason it's a rubber band to this black bag is because it's been pulled already by yours truly from the cartridge and put it in this double black bag here, because I am going to process this. I have brand new E6 chemicals thanks to the Film Photography Project. Nope, they don't sponsor me. I just buy my chemicals there. So we'll find out what happens here. I am happy to report I shot this with a Canon 1014 XLS over at one of my local city parks. Like butter, it went through without any issue whatsoever. Now apparently, according to this Kodak representative, they did make changes, you know, to each cart a little different, and they document. So we'll find out. I am going to process this, and I will show you the results as long as they're halfway decent and I don't mess up the processing. This is my 4th cart that they sent me, and like I say, they put a handwritten number on it. I know they are actually testing these carts and doing something different, because not only is there a number on the outside that they handwrite, but there's also a number on the foil package that matches this number, handwritten. And there's also a handwritten number on the cartridge itself. You're not going to be able to see this, but this was roll 27. Can you see that? Let me hold it still and see if I can zoom in. So they are manufacturing these carts a little bit differently, and according to my Kodak guy, they're getting somewhere with it. So stay tuned. I'll keep you as updated as I can. But I'm actually getting a little excited because this cart, from beginning to end, absolutely flawless. We'll see what happens with this. Anyway, on to the main event. Ding, ding. What we have here for you today, I picked this up just a month ago or so, maybe 2 months ago, because I like these little sort of run-and-go cameras. They're easy to grab, throw them in the car, put them on my bicycle, do whatever I want to do, walk around with them. They're not intrusive. They fit. I wear cargo shorts. They fit in the pockets. They're just real easy to handle. They don't take a lot of juice. 2 AA batteries. But anyway, this particular example, what I did is I just put 2 batteries in it. That was it. And then I took a roll of 7265, this Plus X stuff it's expired, but it's not gravely expired. I didn't look at the edge code. I probably should have had that, but if I can find one, I'll put it on the screen here somewhere of exactly when this roll was manufactured. Sometime in the 2000s, I just don't know when. So I took a roll of this that was brand new, put it into this camera, and I went to a city park and I messed around at the house, and there's a little bit of my youngest daughter, and I basically wanted to see if the light meter worked in this camera, if it exposed the film okay. But essentially, we'll get to that at the end of the video, and let me go over this camera relatively quickly for you because there's really not a whole lot to it. So, it is a very inexpensive camera. I paid $15 US for mine, plus a little bit of shipping. I think I ended up paying just under $25 for the whole camera, not just part of the camera. Anyway, I kind of wanted to, when I was researching these cameras a little bit, I kind of wanted to see if I could find a camera that was very similar, at least in design, to this gem. I hope you can see it. You know what? Let me just pick it up. To my Canon 514XL. Now, there are so many similarities to these two cameras that it's almost ridiculous. And in fact, if you're interested, leave me a comment and let me know if you're interested in seeing a head-to-head battle between a $300 to $400 camera and a $30 to $40 camera. Results only. You decide which one was which. You let me know and I'll put that together. But let me set this to the side here. Okay. Back to this. It weighs just about a pound. With batteries and film, just a skosh over a pound, 1.2 pounds, something like that. As far as features go, it features, now it is the 30 model. They had, I believe, 4 in this particular series. I know they had the T10XL, T20XL, T30XL, clearly. But I don't think there was a T40XL. At least if there was, I can't find any mention of it anywhere in the world wide web. And then there was a T50XL, which is sort of like their top of the line this series camera. It included a couple extra things, a little better lens. It had.
Could you try again?
I gotta learn how to not say Siri subliminally.
I don't understand. I gotta learn how to not say Siri.
All right, I turned her off. Like I was saying, it has a, I think the 50 series, it has some more features to it. It has filming speeds, it has it has more filming speeds, it has a self-timer, there's some other features. And it basically goes from the 10 to the 50, and they add features as they go. So this one, right smack dab in the middle. What they did when they got to the 30, that the 10 and the 20 don't have, is they added a focusable lens. The 10 and the 20 are basically just non-focus lenses. Anything beyond about 4 to 6 feet should be in focus, which is fun for run and gun. It's great. They also added a zoom. They may have done that in the 20, but on this particular camera, there is a power zoom. This is a 3-to-1 camera lens, a 3-to-1 lens. The 3. The zoom only works when you're pulling the shutter release, which the camera's not on right now. This camera will run only in 18 frames per second and single frame. So you could do animation with this. There's no intervalometer, so single frame is literally every time you pull the trigger or use your cable release. Speaking of cable release, it has a little socket here on the front. If you're not familiar with what a cable release socket is, you take one of these devices. This is called a cable release cord, I guess. And it's threaded on one end, and you just sort of thread it into the little hole in the front of the camera. You turn the camera on, and we'll go over those 2 on buttons here in just a second. It's set to 18, and now you have this little plunger on the other end of your cable release, and when you push the plunger in, it starts your camera. When you let go, it stops your camera. You could also do it with your single frame. So you would mount your camera to a tripod. If you're doing, animation or anything, you want to do a little time lapse or something by hand, it helps to avoid, you know, shakiness of the camera. So if you're doing it this way, you're moving the camera every time you're pulling the trigger. If you've got it mounted and you're doing it this way, that's fancy. All right, enough about that. One thing that, well, I have to be honest with you, one thing that my wife and my two daughters both had to help me with when it comes to this camera, I don't know if you just heard that, and I'm not 127% sure, but I think it has to do with, hey, dummy, your batteries are still in the camera and it's turned on. Turn them off. There's a beep, and it's an extremely high-pitched beeping noise. I have a severe case of tinnitus. If you don't know what that is, Google it. It's in the ears. So I can't hear really high-pitched sounds. So essentially you have two on switches here on the side of the camera. On towards the light bulb means in the 80s, when these cameras were popular, in 70s and 80s, they would put this light bulb on here because most of your film, your Super 8 film, was tungsten balanced and you shot under normal light bulbs, tungsten light bulbs. So if you're shooting tungsten balanced film indoors with your regular household tungsten lighting, you put the light bulb on and there's no filter because your film was made to color balance based off of the tungsten lighting, the 3200 degrees Kelvin. So if you were taking that tungsten film outside, you would put the sun, so you would switch the camera to the other side to the little sun symbol. What that did is it threw an 85, the orange filter, behind the lens so that it would correct for the bright sunlight, so your film didn't turn out blue, so it would correct for the color difference between the sun and tungsten light. That's all that is. So on, no filter, on, filter in front of your lens. Now back to the beep. The beep, I'm going to hold this up to my mic and see if anyone can actually pick it up. I personally cannot, but if we pull the handle down and we turn the camera on, we'll just, for this demo, we'll use the light bulb, the no filter. Camera's ready to run. See there, 18 frames per second. Now if I fold the handle up, now this has been verified by my kids, so it must be true. So if we fold the handle up, anybody hear that beep? I actually kind of hear it a little bit. There's a very high-pitched beeping noise, and the camera's telling you your camera is on and your batteries are still in it, turn it off. So when you switch it off, the beeping stops. And it's the same for both sides. There should be a beep. Anyone hear it? Yeah, when I get real close to it, I can hear it. You shut it off. Actually kind of a neat feature, not for people like me that can't hear high pitch, but it's a pretty neat feature to kind of remind you that your camera is still on. Turn it off because you don't want to kill your batteries. Speaking of batteries, camera takes two, can you see them up there? Two AA batteries right there on top. That powers everything. You don't use extra batteries for the light meter versus the motor of the camera. It's all powered off your AA batteries. Your camera's internal little button here, little meter. This camera is really only meant to meter ASA or ISO 25 up to 160. That's basically what all of them did back in the olden days. So if you're going to shoot any of the modern stocks up to, say, your 200 speed film, your Tri-X or your Vision 3 200T, they're going to work fantastic in here. If you're going to shoot 500T, which I've done in these cameras quite a few times, actually comes out pretty well. If you're going to shoot it indoors, I saw a video a while back. I think he did one last year, Mike, over at FPP, where he did a little breakdown. I think it was the 10 or the 20. But he actually showed some film, some 500T that he shot indoors, and it came out pretty well. So I've done 500T outside, and there's so much latitude in that Vision stock that I don't think you're going to have any issue shooting any of the modern day stocks in this camera. It does have no manual exposure control. It only has auto. What it has is the BLC, or the backlight compensation button here. That gives you about one more stop of open aperture. So if you're shooting older stock like this, it's not really ridiculously old, but I do shoot a lot of older stock. You don't have the ability to change the f-stop. The only thing you can do, turn your camera on. Well, you don't actually have to run it first, but hold the button in as you film. And that will give you around 1 extra stop. And I did that with a lot of this. Sometimes I forgot, sometimes I didn't. I did it not only because the film is expired, but I did it because this is a reversal film. And if you watch my channel, you know I don't process reversal. I only process it as a negative. And if you're going to do that, you really need to over it by a stop, either in processing or in camera. And in this case, I kind of did it on both. It does have a little run lock button here on the front. So if you're going to pull the trigger and you want to let go of the trigger and let it still run, you just push the little button in on the side here and your camera's still running. See that? Push the trigger to release it and you're good to go. It has a diopter adjustment here. So as you turn clockwise your little view cup here, your viewfinder, the prism in there, or the lens in there, goes inward. As you go counterclockwise, or unscrew it, clearly it comes out. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So with people like me, I have a hard time seeing close up. I can see far away pretty well, but close up, so that needs to come out. In fact, mine is out as far as it will go. It's not the biggest and best diopter adjustment, but it works just fine. The focus on this camera is not to my absolute loving. It's not a split image. It essentially is what you see is what you get. And it's a little tricky because although you can, it's a good clear viewfinder, you can kind of see the image going in and out of focus, but it's not perfect. So in other words, it feels like there's a way bigger range of what's in focus than should be. We have a footage counter here. Doesn't have any numbers on it. It just has hash marks, so it'll go quarter, half, 3/4, and full. There is a little dongle sort of thing at the top of the viewfinder when you're looking through that sort of dances, almost looks like a shutter on the edge of the, it's more on the edge of the viewfinder, top left corner. When you're out of film, it stops. You just see sort of the clear blank space in there. There is not any markings anywhere inside the viewfinder or on the outside of the camera of what your exposure is. So it doesn't give you that sort of that needle that a lot of them do. You just have to hope that it's doing the right thing. The lens, one thing I forgot to mention, it is a macro lens. Now I tried a little bit of the macro in this film. I'm not real good at macro filming, but basically what you do is you turn the zoom all the way up or all the way out, and then you push your zoom lever. There's a little button right on the top of your zoom lever, and you push it in, twist, and you're locked in. Now you're in macro mode. And I'll put in a little bit of my attempt. Like I say, it wasn't perfect, but you know, I'll get better at it because I do plan on using this little gem from time to time. Last thing I want to mention, it does have a little wrist strap and the standard 1/4-20 tripod mount right there on the bottom, which is quite handy. And that's basically all there is to this. Like I say, if you want to see, I'm going to show you the footage, but if you want to see a comparison video, and maybe I would make a little fun contest, might even add another camera into the mix. I have a couple others that are very similar to these. And let's see who can pick out which camera shot which footage. If you're interested in something like that, I can make it happen. Without too much more of this, my camera, my backyard, my child, the city park, footage of all that. Here it is. So I'm pretty happy. I'd say the camera did a pretty darn good job, if I would say so myself. And I am saying so myself because it's my job to say so. I'm actually pretty impressed with what this little, for me, I think it was $24, $23 maybe, overall with shipping, taxes and all that. Pretty darn impressed. I mean, I would give this some credibility. I would give it, I mean, it's an awesome little, they call it the Travel Mate, actually. I don't have a manual for it, but I've seen them, and I'm pretty sure it says Travel Mate, which is right on with probably what it should be called, because you put it in your bag, your pocket, your, you know, the brim of your hat, wherever. Take it with you and have fun with it. If you enjoyed this video and this camera, do me a favor on the way out the door. Well, not really a door, but on the way out. See it right there? Tap that like button for me. And if you think I've earned it, if you enjoyed this video and you think I've earned it, how about do me a favor? See that picture right there? That picture's worth a million words, or at least a subscribe. And until the very next time, which will be soon, I got some found film coming up next. I'll see all of you and my goofy self on the very next go-around.